Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review. And today we are checking out something pretty interesting. We have a brand new lore-friendly Bullpup, and that is the Handmade Bullpup, a unique weapons concept by Pig. That's right, Pig is back making weapon mods once again, and for this one we have a weapon that uses mostly vanilla assets, which is a Bullpup version of the Handmade assault rifle from the Nuka World DLC, and I gotta say this one came out pretty nice. I watched Pig work on it and post updates in our community Discord, and I think he made this thing in about like 2 days. An absolute madman. But this thing is definitely really cool. It does come with its own custom animations, obviously, because it is Bullpup. It's actually going to use Hitman's animations for the SVU, which do look really nice on this Soviet-inspired weapon. And altogether, this just makes for a really fun, lore-friendly Bullpup weapon to add into Fallout. This weapon is, of course, added to the leveled list, meaning you will find it out in the world. Specifically, it will spawn mostly on gunners, but a really cool feature of this mod is that it also spawns on the raiders from Nuka World with their correct skins. So the skins actually do apply to this weapon. So you could have the pack skin, operator skin, or the disciple skin. Pretty cool. This weapon's also going to include a ton of customization options over at the weapons workbench. Honestly, it's probably more than the vanilla Handmade assault rifle had on its own, so this actually is going to be a bit more customizable than that, along with a bunch of rechambers, and I mean a bunch. So it's not just 7.62 anymore. You can do a whole lot with this thing to really suit it to your exact needs. I really like the methodology behind the design of this weapon. It's something that Pig and I have talked about a lot, and we both very much agree. When it comes to handmade weapons in the apocalypse, I think it's much more realistic that somebody would find an existing firearm that no longer works and would adapt it to a new functioning firearm, and this weapon definitely suits that style, rather than something like the vanilla pipe guns, which are made completely from scratch. That just seems a bit far-fetched, and I think nobody would put in that much effort for a weapon when they could just go find something that's almost working and just get the last few parts that it needs. And this Bullpup adaptation of the Handmade assault rifle definitely fits that bill, especially with the trigger system. Rather than a proper trigger system for the Bullpup setup, it instead uses a metal rod connecting the new trigger to the old trigger, so it just fires it from behind. So it's definitely an improvised sort of Bullpup setup. Still really interesting and definitely very Fallout. With that, let's go ahead and take this thing in-game and check out the stats so you can see exactly what you're getting with this weapon. Now here is what would be the most basic setup of the Handmade Bullpup. So you can see this thing looks very nice. There is that improvised trigger setup I was talking about earlier. This is a really good looking weapon, which is to be expected as it's using a lot of the vanilla assets, so it definitely fits in the style of Fallout. You're going to get a base damage of 35 in semi-automatic with the standard receiver. By default, it is chambered in 7.62, has a fire rate of 40, a range of 95, an accuracy of 71, a weight of 9.4 pounds, and a value of 156 caps. And it's really neat to see this thing running around in the wasteland to add even more variety to the AKs that you'll find. Pretty cool stuff. Now, really quick, let's talk custom animations. Like I said earlier, this uses Hitman's SVU animations, and they line up pretty nicely. Let's go ahead and check them out on a pretty basic version of the rifle in automatic. As you can see, the iron sight definitely does get shoved into your face a little bit, as the SVU was never intended to fire in full auto. That being said, in semi-automatic, this weapon looks really nice. Now again, this is going to include a bunch of rechambers as well as some drum magazines, and with Hitman's animations, which were never intended to be used with drum magazines, there are some clipping issues, but that's not a huge deal to me. That'll just kind of vary from user to user. Now let's talk attachments over here at the weapons workbench, where we have a lot of really cool options. Here's a pretty standard version that I came up with here, but you can also have things like a fully painted one with a drum mag. You can have a pretty crazy one with a laser sight, a handmade suppressor, and the pack paint job. You can throw on a red dot and convert it to 10mm. You can do some cool stuff. So let's start with a very basic version and see what all we can do. Starting with the receivers, we have our standard through advanced receivers with a max damage of 64 and semi-automatic, and then underneath that we have all of the automatic versions. We have automatic through powerful automatic, which will get you to a damage of 40. Thank you, Pig, for organizing it this way. I hate when receivers are all mixed together. That's how it is in vanilla, and it's really annoying. Having it set up this way is really nice, as you can go to the bottom for automatic, and the top is all semi. Really cool. As for barrels, we have the very short barrel, the very short covered barrel, the short barrel, the short covered barrel, the long barrel, and the long covered barrel. For stocks, we have the short stock, which is nothing. It's really more like no stock. We have a full stock, which will have a pad on the back and a nice little cheek rest. We have the marksman stock, which will be a little bit more padded. And then we have the recoil compensating stock, which has a full setup that actually covers the rear trigger and just makes it a lot more protected for you. For magazines, we have a whole bunch of stuff. We have the standard magazine, which is 7.62. We have a rechamber to 10mm. And we also have a rechamber to 5mm. Typically, you'd expect a 5.56 rechamber, but no, Pig went with 5, which is nice because 5mm is pretty underrepresented in the vanilla game. Then we also have medium versions of each of these magazines, which will be a bit longer. We also have a shotgun rechamber, so you can use shotgun shells, sort of like a Bullpup Sega. Then we have a 10mm drum magazine and a drum magazine for 7.62. Pretty cool stuff. These ones, like I said, will have a bit of clipping, but not that big of a deal. As for sights, we have a pretty weird assortment of options. For whatever reason, Pig chose to throw the flashlights and laser sights onto the scope category rather than into their own category, but that's just fine. It's just a bit odd. So you get the standard sights, which are iron sights. You have the flashlight attachment, which will throw a mag light to the right side of the weapon. You have a laser sight, which will throw a laser sight over there. You have the reflex sight. You have the reflex sight and laser sight, which will do the same thing. And then you have a short scope, a medium scope, and a long scope. For muzzles, we have the option for no muzzle, a compensator, a muzzle brake, a homemade suppressor, and a quality suppressor. And then finally, you do have the skins for each of the Nuka World gangs. You have standard, disciples, operators, and painted. And these look really, really nice on this weapon, as it's using mostly vanilla parts. Now then, it is of course time for our damage test to see how this weapon performs in the field. We'll be doing our test on 3 different Deathclaws here as our damage standard. We'll be using the basic version of the weapon with no attachments and no perks in semi-automatic just to see what it does as a baseline. And then we'll be using a fully upgraded automatic version and a fully upgraded semi-automatic version to see how the two compare with their maximum damages. So, starting on the left with this Deathclaw here, we have our standard version of the rifle. Aiming for his weak spot, let's see how it does. Not too bad, leaving 1 bullet in the magazine out of 20, puts him down in 19 shots. Pretty good stuff. Let's see how we do in fully automatic with this drum magazine. And we put that Deathclaw down much faster with 15 shots. Pretty good, and much more rapid thanks to the full auto. Let's see how we do semi-automatic with some really high damage. And we already knocked him down thanks to the sniper perk. Helps if we can actually aim for the weak spot. We did miss a handful there, but it's around 15-ish shots. Less if you're better than me. So yeah, guys, that is the Handmade Bullpup, a very cool lore-friendly approach to a Bullpup weapon, which Bullpups in themselves are super lore-friendly. While they may not seem to fit the Fallout style, they're definitely rooted in Fallout's history, especially in games like Fallout 2, which is just flooded with them. A very cool weapon, and one that I highly recommend you go and check out. This one's available for not only PC, but Xbox as well, and its links will be down in the description below, so you can try them out for yourself. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, big shout out to my patrons for making videos like this possible. You guys are awesome. If you want to check it out, it will be linked down in the description below, but it is completely optional. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace!